Jumping into the number 5 spot of the top 5 best gaming monitors for the PS5 in 2025 is the LG 27GS60QC-B, coming in at a price tag of $249.99. If you want to check out any of the 5 gaming monitors in this video, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but let's talk about this LG. Firstly, that $249.99 price tag is very typically on sale, and sometimes even on sale under $200, so check the links below for current pricing. Now this comes in a 27-inch screen size. The panel type here is a VA panel, but it has a very thin matte finish with a 1000R curve. The matte finish does affect the overall picture quality, which is why this monitor is actually so good for the price. This has a 1440p resolution and hits 180 Hz max refresh rate, but with the PS5, this can do 1440p at 120 Hz with HDR, but no variable refresh rate, or this can downscale 4K at 60 Hz with HDR, but again, no variable refresh rate. But how does the panel actually look? Well, with brightness, this came in at 320 nits of brightness, which is good. However, it does actually visually appear to look slightly brighter when compared to other panels with just average matte finishes. This image does pop way more than you would expect for the price point because of that thinner matte finish. It increases things like the highlights look just a bit brighter, the visual contrast ratio looks deeper, so the blacks look just a little bit deeper. The overall clarity of the screen also just looks a little bit sharper, and that's all because of the matte finish. Again, not OLED levels, not like a glossy finish, but still a lot better than basically every other VA panel in this price point. For colors, this covers 99% of the sRGB color gamut, and out of the box, this thing looks absolutely amazing. Colors look vibrant and saturated, and the white balance was extremely accurate. So nothing here just looks off, it actually looks very, very good. But for the gameplay, obviously this is a VA panel, so we kind of expect some ghosting here, but if you're not in a dark area of the screen, if you're not on a night map or something, this thing is fast, like really impressively fast. You probably won't notice any ghosting at all, which is rare for a VA panel, especially in this price point. Once you get to the darker areas of the screen, you will notice some ghosting, but if you're really not prone to noticing ghosting, then it's probably gonna be a non-issue here. It didn't bother me. And honestly, the experience when gaming on this monitor is shocking considering the price point and just what it is. It just performs so much better than everything else that is comparative to this monitor. Especially if you can get this under $200, this is an insanely good value for the PS5. But with that, let's move on to the number 4 spot, which is the Dell G2724D, coming in at a price tag of $259.98 at the time of filming, but again, this can consistently go on sale. Check the links below for current pricing. I don't control pricing, guys. If I say the wrong price, you guys know I don't control pricing. I just review these things. Now, this again has a 27-inch screen size, but this time it bumps it up to an IPS panel. This again has a 1440p resolution, hits 165 Hz max refresh rate. For the PS5, this is compatible at 1440p at 120 Hz with HDR and variable refresh rate at the same time due to having an HDMI 2.1 port, which is great. Or if you'd rather downscale from 4K, you can do a 4K 60 Hz signal with HDR and again, variable refresh rate. As far as how this panel looks, the brightness here is fantastic. This is rated at 400 nits, but after testing, this reached a whopping 475 nits of brightness in SDR. And in HDR, this gets a slight brightness bump over that to about 500 nits. In colors here, they cover 99% of the sRGB color gamut, not crazy wide color gamut for like HDR usage, but at this price point, you don't really expect that. You do get a benefit with the viewing angles, the speed of the panel in terms of ghosting, because this is an IPS panel, and obviously the colors will look slightly better, even though it covers the same 99% sRGB color gamut, IPS panels just look better. So how is that gameplay experience? Well, ghosting in-game is fantastic. Of the 3 response time settings, none have overshoot, and the fastest is the best here, which is amazing. Even with those much faster whips, this is very, very little ghosting here. You really get an extreme value with this monitor. It's great for FPS games, and if you can get this like under 260 bucks, this is a crazy good monitor with full 1440p capability with the PS5. But before we move on, I'd like to thank Vasco for sponsoring this portion of the video. They created these, the Vasco Translator E1, a set of AI-based translating earbuds that are compatible with both Android and iOS using Vasco Connect, their free mobile app. When using the app, these wireless earbuds can translate 51 different languages in real time. So if you're traveling abroad to a foreign country, have bilingual business meetings, or just need a translator, these are a great option. Here's how they work. First, you connect these with the free Vasco Connect app, which was seamless with no pairing issues. In the app, you then select the native language for each earbud from the list of 51 different options, set your preferred LED color, change the volume, and you can also view the battery life. After that, you have access to the touchless translation mode where you can connect up to 10 earbuds in the app, each of which can be used in a different language. This is then recognized and automatically translate to the others in the group. Really cool. The translator's voice is easy to understand, plenty loud, and the software is impressively quick with generating the translations. The mic is also quite sensitive, so you don't have to yell for your conversation to be registered and translated. As for the build, it's mainly made out of plastic besides the rubber ear hook. The customizable LED is bright and vibrant, and each earbud weighs in at around 12.8 grams. Physical controls here are simple with 2 buttons on the front to control the volume, and for fitment, the ear hooks do a good job keeping these locked in and in place. If you want to check these out, click the link in the description and use code TECHREVIEW10 to get 10% off your order. But thank you again for Vasco for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now, let's move on to the number 3 spot. And this monitor is so awesome. If you want one of the most beautiful monitors at a really good price point, this is the one to get. This is the AOC Q27G3XMN, coming at a price tag of $279.99. This one pretty much never goes on sale, but it's also an unbelievably good value at its normal price point. But this is 27 inches again, 1440p, but this is a VA panel, but not just any VA panel. This is a mini LED lit VA panel with full array local dimming. This comes in at having 336 local dimming zones. That means you're getting black levels closer to an OLED than any other type of panel. So you really do get a true HDR experience here that is pretty shocking at this price point. For the PS5's compatibility, this can do 1440p at 120 Hz with HDR, but no variable refresh rate. This can also downscale a 4K 60 Hz signal with HDR, but again, no variable refresh rate. You might be thinking, well, the last monitor had that. This one's maybe probably more expensive by just a few dollars. Why doesn't this one have variable refresh rate? Because if you want beauty, this thing is insane for the money. And even while not having variable refresh rate, I didn't really notice any screen tearing, so it's still great here. Brightness and SDR managed to hit a whopping 560 nits of brightness, which is absolutely fantastic. Colors here cover 96% of the DCI-P3 color gamut, so that's a wider color gamut here, and honestly, for this price, you don't see 96% coverage of the DCI-P3 color gamut. That's crazy good. On top of that, this gets a display HDR 1000 nit rating. So in the highlights, this thing can get up to or around 1000 nits. That's insane. Colors in game look vibrant and saturated and absolutely beautiful, but also because of those local dimming zones, the black levels here are amazing, and you really get depth similar to an OLED, which is absolutely crazy at this price point. You're really not going to get any other monitor that is more beautiful than this panel at anywhere near this price point. It is seriously impressive. But what about the gameplay? How is the ghosting here? Well, for a VA panel, it's actually still pretty good. In brighter scenes, ghosting is very minimal. There is ghosting in darker scenes, which is to be expected. However, for me in game, this wasn't an issue because I had such an amazing time playing games, as I was shocked with the insane black levels, really good vibrancy of colors. If you're prioritizing more beauty than like just perfect motion clarity, but you still want it at this price point, that's the last monitor versus this monitor. This monitor is literally a unicorn. There's no competition for this monitor. There is no other comparative monitor that's out there that even does that. That's why this is literally an incredibly rare, very interesting, absolutely stunning unicorn of a monitor for the price point. If you guys want beauty, it's not gonna get better than this. But with that, let's move on to the number 2 spot, which is an awesome monitor. This is the Asus XG27UCG, coming in at a price point of $499.99. Now, this is an amazing monitor if you not only play on the PS5, but you also have a PC that you want to do fast-paced gaming on. Why, might you ask? Well, because one, it's a 27-inch panel, so a normal screen size. It's also an IPS panel, which is also normal, but this has resolution halving. If you don't know what that means this can go from a 4K 160 Hz refresh rate or a 1080p 320 Hz refresh rate. So that is an excellent dual usage case scenario where if you're on PC, you want to do 320 Hz gaming on that. So if you're playing like COD, but then you want to switch over to PS5, then you're taking full advantage at 4K and you're able to get that full 120 Hz. So the compatibility with the PS5 is you get that 4K 120 Hz with HDR and a variable refresh rate together. So cool. Now the brightness here is great, hitting 445 nits in SDR and up to a whopping 593 nits when you change around some settings. However, in HDR, the overall screen brightness gets substantially brighter, along with those highlights as well. This tested in full screen brightness at 556 nits of brightness. That is enormous. Colors here are great, covering 95% of the DCI-P3 color gamut, and after using Windows HDR calibration tool, which is free with Windows 11, this thing looked awesome. Colors looked vibrant, they looked fantastic, and not just due to the wider gamut and better saturation, but also the extremely bright backlight make those colors just pop more. Now for gameplay and ghosting, it is extremely minimal here. It's basically crystal clear. Now visually, at this level of ghosting, you're really not gonna get better than this, even if you move to an OLED versus an IPS. Visually, it doesn't really get much better than this. It's that good. Not just that, but this also has a really good ELMB mode, which is extreme low motion blur. So if you want literally the best motion clarity possible, this thing can give you that. It's great. Overall, a fantastic dual purpose PC and PS5 compatible display that just gives you insane customization, not just with your resolution, but your refresh rate. But with that, let's move on to the number 1 best gaming monitor for the PS5. This is the Alienware AW3225QF, coming in at a price tag of $1,199.99. But at the time of filming, this is on sale under $1,000, so check the links below. This is exclusively sold on Dell's website, so I will have the Dell.com link below rather than Amazon links. This one now comes in at 32 inches. This is using a Gen 3 Quantum Dot OLED. So this is, well, this is the best of the best. This is my daily driver, and this is also the most beautiful and best monitor literally in the world currently. There is no monitor that is better than this. Now, this uses a glossy finish and has a slight curve, a 4K resolution, and a max refresh rate of 240 Hertz. This is great to use for both the PS5 and PC at the same time. Now, the glossy finish here, while you might be like, well, the reflections, glossy finishes allow for extremely increased clarity. Clarity on glossy finishes are like no other. Once you go glossy, you can't go back. That's why like 99% of TVs do not have a matte finish. Now, obviously, this is fully compatible with the PS5 at 4K 120 Hz with HDR and variable refresh rate at the same time. Brightness here for a Quantum Dot OLED, because it's the Gen 3, it's actually great here. Highlights look fantastic, and HDR here is insane. The colors here literally have never popped on any other monitor this good. And that's just because of the panel type, the Quantum Dot layer mixed with it just being an OLED. Especially reds look insanely deep and vibrant and beautiful. While the other panels on this list are actually very pretty panels when compared to most of them in the industry, you're not gonna get better than this one. This one is absolutely insane. Colors are immense, covering 99% of the DCI-P3 color gamut. In-game, they are just jaw-droppingly gorgeous, being incredibly vibrant and saturated, as well as the accuracy being great out of the box. All that mixed with a glossy finish, and this makes for the single most beautiful monitor I have ever used. Now, ghosting here, well, it's an OLED. It has borderline instantaneous pixel response, so that gives you literally the lowest ghosting that is currently possible in the world. It's crazy. But overall, if you want literally the best gaming monitor in the world right now, both for the PS5 and the PC, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. And again, thank you to Vasco for sponsoring this video. You can also check them out in the links below and use code TechReview10 to get 10% off your order.